So number one tip is do a pre-interview. You want to get to know your person before you actually ever shoot your on-camera interview. And so what I do is I get on the phone with the person and I write down as many notes. I kind of have a pre-interview. It's my research or exploratory interview with them before I ever go to camera, because I want to make sure that when they're on camera, every question I ask could be something I could use in my film. It's not just me aimlessly asking questions, discovering stuff about them. I want to know as much as I can ahead of time so that that interview has purpose and I'm not wasting anyone's time. So do a pre-interview, and if you can't meet up with the person ahead of time or get on a phone call, watch other interviews of the person if there is any, or do as much research about their life or about the things that they're familiar with. So let's say it's a farmer and you can't get on the phone with him ahead of time because he's doing his farming things. Research about farmers, watch other interviews of farmers, do a little bit of research. It will go a long way for your first interview with them on camera. My number 2 point is ask more why questions. And you want to ask why questions because it gets into people's emotions. You want to ask people to relive their experience. See, you could ask someone, let's say it's an athlete, a basketball player, and you want to ask him what his first game was like. Don't ask just what happened in your first game. Ask him what was going through your head when you first stepped onto that court. What were you feeling? Imagine yourself back in your first game. What thoughts were you feeling, or what was going through your head? I like asking people what was going through their head because it gets them thinking about that moment. They actually have to relive the past, and they'll give you a genuine answer, not just about what was happening, about what was happening in their head, what they were feeling. So make sure to ask more questions that either are directed towards emotions or ask the why. Why did you feel that? Why did this happen? It will get people explaining the situation. It'll get them explaining the dynamics around them, and it won't just give you information. Because if you're just asking people questions that will give information, like what happened that day, they'll say, well, we played basketball and we lost the game 10-0. Well, that's cool, but you could show that in B-roll. What you can't show in B-roll is what they were feeling. So this is where you want to ask questions that are directed towards emotions. You'll create a much more interesting character in your film than if you're just asking questions that ascertain information. My number 3 point is the pause. You as a documentary filmmaker may feel like you have every question lined up and you want to get to the next question and get to the next question and get them to talk about something. But if you just pause and don't interrupt the person, they're gonna feel like they need to keep talking. Because the second you talk, you're telling them that you have all the information you need. But if you can practice pausing, and sometimes it's awkward, sometimes the person won't know what to say, you can give them a visual cue, or you could say, well, what else about that situation? You can prompt them to talk more. But if you can just zip it for the most part, they're gonna keep talking, and that's when you get to the good stuff. Because the first response that they'll give you will probably just telling you what happened that day. But the longer you wait, they're gonna have to go deeper in their mind, deeper in their heart, deeper in their emotions, and they're gonna give you a much deeper answer most of the time that will resonate with your audience and again, create a much more interesting character in your film. So remember the pause. When you wanna interrupt them, when you wanna go on to the next question, when you feel like, I've probably been waiting too long, it's rude, just hold a bit longer and you're gonna get way better information out of them. And my 4th point for documentary interviews is have a direction. This kind of goes back to the first one when you do a pre-interview. Sometimes I watch people doing interviews and they just ask people random question after random question and they don't know where they're going with it. What you want is some responses that could start off your film, that will help explain the tension in the person's life, what the conflict was that they are experiencing. And then in the end, you want to have a couple questions that can kind of not wrap up the film, but give clarity to what they learn. So I hope these tips help. Just to review that again, do a pre-interview. Don't go into the interview blind like you've never spoke to them before. Number 2 is ask more why questions, get into their emotions, find out what tension is in their life. Number 3 is pause. Don't interrupt them. Let them talk. They will give you better answers. And number 4 is have a direction with the interview. Don't just ask questions aimlessly. Have a story that you're trying to tell or that you hope that they can tell so that you can prompt them along the way.